Hey everyone, I'm Sal Cincotta, and in this month's article, I want to talk to you about getting started in destination wedding photography. And before we go any further, be sure to go to behindtheshutter.com where you can see pictures tied to this article, right? So what I want to do is just dive right into destination wedding photography. Look, I don't know if you like traveling the world, seeing beautiful places, getting out of that creative rut by shooting in the same city week in and week out, you're going to want to get into destination wedding photography. And best of all, someone else is paying for it. So I'm pretty sure it's the best job in the world, but don't let that secret out. So what I want to do is, what are those steps? How do we get started? What do we need to do? First and foremost, you've got to show it to sell it, right? Now, we've always heard that phrase, show it to sell it, and we're usually thinking about putting prints on the wall in our studio, that type of stuff. But it's the same thing when it comes to photography. How am I supposed to know that you shoot destination weddings if I don't see any destination work in your portfolio? And I know that sounds so ridiculous, and I know this because in the beginning of my career, people would ask me, now, do you travel? Yeah, why wouldn't I travel, right? That would always be what was going on in the back of my head. And then it became clear, the reason they're asking me that is because there's nothing on my website even alluding to the fact that I travel. So we've got to show this stuff to get them to understand this is what we do, right? And so before you get going into this, understand that destination work is not all beautiful, pretty pictures and easy. It is a pain in the ass. You're traveling with your gear. You're at the mercy of your client. So you're working incredible hours, much longer hours, I'm going to tell you, than if you're shooting a normal wedding. So when I'm doing a destination wedding, I'm with the client all day, into the night, the next day, because we're all staying at the same resort. We're all staying at the same hotel. And so there's no real separation. And so I'm not telling you it's bad. I'm just letting you know that it's not all pretty pictures. You have to understand and realize that it is grueling traveling. So now, some of these destinations I go to, it could take me 12 to 20 hours of travel to get there. Maybe I get one night's sleep, and then I'm working, and then I'm back on the road again. And so again, keep all this in mind as you're getting into this. Go in with it eyes wide open. Now, the other thing is how do you get your first big break? So you want to get started in destination work, and I'll never forget my first big break. It was a Ireland destination wedding, and the same thing happened. The client asked me, do you travel? Of course I travel, but these are the things that are going to come up. And what I did, because I knew I had to have this in my portfolio, was I discounted this wedding significantly. And so this becomes really important to understand that if you're discounting these weddings, you might not make the same kind of profit, but you're investing in your business and your future. And that was my big break, because after that, I started to get more and more destination work. My portfolio began to grow, and now destination work is part of every single year. There has not been a year, I want to say in the last 7 years, that I have not done a destination wedding, whether it's domestically or internationally. And I love it. That's part of what I love in my job. But you got to get that first wedding under your belt. So do whatever you have to do to get that. I don't want you to go out and lose money on it, but if you got to be break even, so be it. Be break even and take that wedding so that you can build your portfolio. Then you've got to let the world know that you even do destination work, right? So this is simple. On your website, you know, for me, I say New York, Chicago, worldwide. And so I'm letting people know that we will travel the world, but we specifically like to work in New York and Chicago. These are cities I know. These are cities I shoot in all the time, and cities I'm quite comfortable in. So I want to at least bring that to their attention. But then I'm letting them know, hey, we're available for worldwide travel. This has got to be on your website. This should be on your blog. When you're traveling, you should be blogging about your travel experience. Show the world, show social media that you're traveling on an event. I do Instagram stories when I'm traveling, and we're showing all the behind the scenes, and my clients are following those stories, right? Saying, oh my God, it looks like you're having an amazing time. Well, we are. And so I want that to be out there and everybody to understand this is what we do for a living. I don't want them to have to guess. We've got to let the world know what we do. Now, this is probably one of the most important pieces here, right? Knowledge is power. When you're traveling, you've got to start contending with things like local customs, permits, language, location scouting. How are you scouting locations in a city, country you've never been in? Becomes very difficult. We're doing things like using Google Maps, Google Earth. We're looking at tourist sites even. We want to see where are the cool places to shoot in these exotic locations that we're traveling to. And exotic doesn't have to be like you're on a beach in Tahiti somewhere, right? It can just be a different location in the United States. It can be, you've never been to New York City, now you're shooting a destination there. Where are you going to shoot? What permits do you need to shoot, right? For example, if you're in New York City, you don't need a permit, but the minute you put a tripod down, you need a permit. The minute you put a light stand down, you need a permit. And so that's different than when you're photographing in LA. LA, the minute you get off a plane, you need a permit. So these are the things you have to learn, or you're going to run into trouble when you're in these locations. And most importantly, you're going to look ridiculous in front of your clients, right? You want to be professional. You want to know, you want your clients to have confidence that you know what you're doing. Language barriers, right? Do you speak any of the local language? It can be as simple as being able to say hi, hello, excuse me. If you don't know these basic phrases, you're going to get yourself in a situation where just trying to find directions, just trying to say excuse me to someone becomes a problem or a challenge for you. So you're going to want to have these things. Just do some research. It's easy stuff, right? So don't just show up as a typical American and act that way. It comes across the wrong way. It comes across as obnoxious. It comes across as elitist. And that's not who we are, right? So you're a photographer. Be professional. Act professional. Invest some time in understanding where you're going and what any of those local customs are. Getting there with your gear. That's another problem I'm constantly dealing with, like traveling with your gear. So before we go into some of this other stuff, how much should you charge? All right, so this is something else that is constantly popping up for us is how much should I charge? And should I charge for a hotel? Should I charge for airfare? Should I charge for meals? Do I reimburse the client? Does the client pay for it? So here's what I do. You can do whatever you want. There's a million ways to do it. Every photographer you talk to does something a little bit differently. If I'm working with a client that's from St. Louis, which is where I'm based, and they're getting married in Paris, what I don't want them to do, I refuse to let them book my travel. I'm telling you, trust me when I tell you, do not let them book your travel. Because if they do, to save $300, they're going to put you on a flight that should be a 8-hour flight, a 5-hour flight, but they're going to put you on a flight that's twice the amount of time, connecting in multiple cities and creating chaos for you, right? Just to save a couple of $100. I know because it happened to me once. And when I say once, I never let it happen again. So I'm in complete control of my travel. And then if something goes wrong, I want to upgrade my flight, I miss a flight, all these things can happen. The ticket's in my name. I can handle it from there. Now, what I like to do, and here, I want to read this to you. If I'm doing any domestic wedding anywhere in the United States, outside of St. Louis, I add $1,000 to any package. It's simple. Why do I want to create a barrier to entry, right? Well, it's my time out of the office. Hey, we live in a mobile world. Bring your laptop, do your work while you're on the road. My client's not going to pay for that. So yeah, is a local wedding easier? I get to go home, sleep in my own bed at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, whenever I'm done? Sure. It's a little bit more work, but I like travel. I like being out there in the field and being inspired by all these incredibly new cities. So I want to make it easy for my client. I add $1,000 to the price of any package they decide to go with. International travel, I do get a quote for airline airfare and hotels close to wherever they're staying, right? If they're in a remote location, then of course I've got to add, I got to probably stay at the resort. But if they're in a place where I can just get a cheap hotel, I stay at a cheap hotel, man. Stop being a diva. I'm not there on vacation. I'm there to work a wedding. Now, if I want to add a couple of extra days on the tail end of that, my client has already sent me to that country, paid for my round trip airfare, so add an extra couple of days, go stay at your own hotel, spend a little bit more money, do whatever you want to do, right? But just keep in mind, keep the price point low. If you let the price point get too high, what's going to end up happening is your client's going to go, well, maybe we should hire someone else. See, so I don't never want that price of travel to get in the way of them booking me. I just want to make it super easy for them. Now, you're going to want to keep your costs down low, right? This becomes really, really important. It was like I was just saying, what hotels you're staying at, what's your airfare, all these things start coming into consideration. You're not going on vacation. Please keep that in mind. All too often people look at what I do and they're like, oh, you're so lucky you get to travel the world. Yeah, I definitely think I'm lucky. I definitely travel the world, but I got news for you. I don't arrive in Italy. I don't arrive in, in Paris, and then I'm just a tourist traveling around and drinking champagne and having, yeah, I'm there. I enjoy myself. I'm working. And then maybe I take half a day and do something for myself. That's how I keep costs down, and that's how I get to travel the world. So the final question for you is, and this is what I do, where do you want to go, right? Do you want to go to Iceland? Do you want to go to Paris? Do you want to go to London? Wherever you want to go, start putting those feelers out there. Maybe book your own travel out there, letting your clients know you're heading out there, right? So once a year, I like to book my own shoot in another part of the world and build my portfolio. And almost every single time, clients find out about it and meet us in those locations, and they end up spending enough money with us that it pays for that entire trip. Now that is a win-win situation if you ask me. So this is just the tip of the iceberg for getting started in destination wedding photography. I hope you found this useful. Again, for the full article, head over to behindtheshutter.com and open up the travel edition. We'll see you next time.